Our guest today on Personally Speaking is Juan Pablo Di Pace. You may know him as a man who's played Jesus on the series AD, a popular film, but you also might know him from his time in Fuller House, the popular TV series. He has directed and stars in now a powerful new film called Duino. And Duino is a thing I'm hoping all our viewers will see and watch. But first, let's talk with Juan Pablo about the creative arts and about his journey of faith and love. Stay with us on Personally Speaking. Hello and welcome to Personally Speaking. I'm your host, Monsignor Jim Lisante. An actor and singer, Juan Pablo Di Pace, joins me now. Juan Pablo was born in Argentina. He moved to Spain when he was 12 years old. He studied theater at the London Studio Center and starred as Billy Flynn in London's production of Chicago. He appeared on screen in the popular movie Mamma Mia. He also played Fernando on the Netflix series Fuller House. Juan Pablo Di Pace also played the iconic role of Jesus Christ in the NBC series AD, The Bible Continues. And he was a favorite in season 27 of Dancing with the Stars, making it to the semifinals. Juan Pablo makes his directorial debut with the new film Duino, which he also stars in and is produced by the late Norman Lear and Brent Miller. Juan Pablo Di Pace debuted his new one-man show at 54 Below this month. He's also a singer and has released a single and music video of a song called Broken last year. He's here with us today once again to talk about his life, his career, the values that mean the most to him. I'm so pleased to welcome back to Personally Speaking our friend, actor and singer, Juan Pablo Di Pace. Before we get to our interview with Juan Pablo, let's listen to him singing now a great song called Fall on Me.
Heaven knows that we fight. Heaven knows that's alright. Heaven knows what you're going through. But if you don't let me see the kind of love that you need, how can I give it back to you? I wanna make it better, wanna make it there together. Don't wanna fall apart again. It takes more than one to hold on, so even when it goes wrong, you're stronger in the end.
Thanks to Juan Pablo for coming back on our program. It's the third time we've had him as a guest on Personally Speaking. Delighted to have him. And we're going to talk about his new movie that he produced and directed and wrote and stars in just a moment. But let me ask you, Juan Pablo, when you are a person of multi talents as you are, so you act, you sing, you dance, you produce, you direct, you write. I got to ask you, I'm always fascinated when someone has multiple talents like that about the family that formed you, the family of origin. Do you come from an artistic family? And how did they respond to this son who has multi-talented creative gifts?
Well, thank you so much for saying this, Jim. I I I do come from a family of artists. So my mother is a painter, my sister's an actress, my grandma was a passionate for dance, very
Oh,
passionate for dance, and so I kind of grew up with the different sort of mediums available to me. And of course, when you have support from an artistic family, then you don't have that kind of stop of or fear of, oh, the arts are
yeah,
uh, some people think the arts are not a secure thing to do, or
right, right.
so I didn't have that. In fact, it was always celebrated to
Ah,
to express.
okay, so that's good. So the family was supportive. Now, Juan Pablo de Pacho is our guest, and in making this film, you're reminding me of the first interview I did many years ago. Obviously, was with the award-winning film director Frank Capra, It's a Wonderful Life. I mention it because he said that when he was working for Columbia Pictures, he belonged to a studio. Getting pictures made was not hard. He just had to direct. But then he came
Mhm.
back from World War II and he made It's a Wonderful Life as an independent, and that was an entirely different experience. How difficult is it for you, Juan Pablo, and those you work with to put together a film like this? Nothing is inexpensive anymore. So what's the pathway to making a film like this? You have a vision, you have a thing that you want to say, you say it beautifully, but how difficult was it to make this film?
Well, it's now been 3 years of my life. I
Wow.
started the process end of 2020 when we all had time to think.
Right, right.
And yeah, I really understood that was going to be my next task, to direct a story and to tell the story. Because as a performer, you're always a piece of a puzzle
Mm-hmm.
when you're making a film, and if it's your script, you get to direct it and tell it exactly like you want it. It's literally like your child.
Yeah.
So you're putting out into the world, which is why now it's so exciting because it's finally coming out into into the world. But you get to choose how you tell it, and so it is difficult in the sense that anything good in life can be difficult, and it's not devoid of challenges, but it's at the same time incredibly satisfying
You have
as well.
shown this film in the context of a real audience, people watching, uh, having worked on it, edited, produced it, directed. You see it privately, but then when you see it with an audience reaction to it, what was their response?
It's been really incredible. We've been showing it in some festivals across the world, um, and Italy, in Rio, in Hong Kong, Hawaii,
Mhm.
New York, on Saturday. And yeah, it just fills my heart because
Uh,
the response is beautiful, and it's an emotional film. It's an intense, emotional, also tender film.
mhm.
And that's what I love, is seeing that people respond to that tenderness, which I think we are missing in
Yes.
media in general. So it's been a beautiful thing to watch.
It's a wonderful thing. I'm encouraging our listeners and viewers to please watch the film and to go out and find it for sure. Speaking of which, for people around the world who listen to or watch a program like ours, how do they find it? How do they find a way to see Duino?
Yeah, well, at the moment we are premiering. We're doing our festival run. So
Hmm.
so right now, this Saturday, at 6 p.m. in New York, people in person can watch it. But of course, they can follow Duino Movie,
Okay.
or my own Instagram, with more dates and hopefully the future of the future of distribution, which shall come soon. All that information.
Good, good, good. And so for people like my 102-year-old mother who enjoy watching things on DVD, the day will come when it comes out that way too.
Exactly. That day will come.
Good, good, good. We'll sure look forward to that. Let me ask you this too, because you mentioned the experience of 2020 and the pandemic. When you're a creative artist, and for you, it's film and television, and for those that don't know, Juan Pablo is a great stage actor as well. What was your emotional, psychological response to the world shutting down, especially when you are a person who is a creative artist?
It was a really interesting thing that happened because all of a sudden the people that didn't have a stage anymore, or that couldn't go, and shoot, we all kind of started finding other ways. And I think it was an incredibly creative time,
Mm,
because it was like life forced us to not have any technical anything. So we had to do something in the most simple way. In my case, I created a web series that I shot with my friends over Zoom. So just
mhm.
like you and I right now.
Right, right.
And I was writing an episode every week, and I was editing it every week. And it forced me to create every week, to direct every week. And I have to say that show, which was called Minutia, is still on YouTube. It's very silly. It's literally an actor having a conversation with his terrible therapist.
Okay.
So very simple, but and they're like 8 minutes each. But the fact that I had to put all that effort in there, when I was done with the process, which was like 14 weeks or 14 episodes, I thought to myself, okay, so I've done this and I've spent all this time and I love it. Now that we're out of the pandemic, I think I can put the same amount of energy into actually making a feature film.
Okay.
And so it was kind of like the precursor to Duino. Uh,
Hmm.
so for me, the pandemic was really important because it sort of switched on my director hat very in a big way.
Juan Pablo Di Pace is our guest. Right behind me, you see a picture of a man who shares your name, Pope John Paul II, now a saint. I mention that because the guy in the picture with the Pope is me back in the 1990s, which brings me to the question of aging. Yesterday I was 30 and today I'm not anymore. You're in a field where looks are lionized and youth is celebrated, and but part of the natural process of life is we age, and thank God we age, or we'd be dead. How do you, as a person who is in front of the camera so often, how do you make sense of the reality of aging without letting it be an intimidating thing in your life?
You know what? I used to pay more attention to my own aging. The only thing now that I pay attention to is mortality.
Ah,
It's that
okay.
by knowing that someday I
Yeah.
won't be here. I want to leave things that matter, and
Mm,
I want to keep, especially, yeah. It's about what you leave behind
yeah.
for me. So I know that there's a lot of obsession with body in these days and beauty and aging and all that stuff. I I've kind of let go of that in
Hmm.
a way. I feel like it's just not important.
Yeah. No.
Uh, of course, we all want to be healthy
Right.
and look good, but I think there's been way too much weight put on this in the last, I don't know, I guess 50 years or so,
Yes.
where beauty has become just too important. And yeah, so I think it's about purpose.
Yes.
It's really about purpose. What occupies my time these days?
Hmm. I think that's a great thing. For better or worse, I celebrate most weeks of the year funerals
Mm,
for people, and it's always about what was their legacy? Did they leave the world a better place than they found it? When people remember them and what they created, what will they remember? And you're saying that is in the end what is most important, more than the passing look or physical beauty or anything like that. And all right, now let me ask you this too, because it's to me, it's important. Different stages of our three interviews together. There's been a
yeah.
time when the world was not conscious of your sexuality. The last time, kind of, and today you seem to be so comfortable with it. And I'm mindful, as a Catholic priest, of the wonderful strides that Pope Francis has allowed us to make in terms of saying, "Hey, God's children, all everyone's worthy of love." And I'm just wondering, is it an easy thing, the process of transition? Because I'm sure there are, especially parents listening to or watching a show like this, who say, I think my child might be gay, but I'm not sure how to respond to that. Maybe I even prefer they never tell me. But you've been through that transition and you've come out beautifully with it, through it. Tell us, is there an insight into how it should be faced and what parents' response should be, and how you came to a place which is very self-evident now of personal peace?
Mm, it's a loaded question, but also we definitely are in easier times right
Yeah.
now. Um, my own thing was, I mean, I want to say really in the 90s, like 97 or so, 98, with my parents, because that's really the important thing. I mean,
Mhm.
society is like, whatever, but with your close people, your friends, your family, that's what it really matters. And so I was 19 really at the time. Uh, and yeah, it was really something that my mom kind of brought up herself.
Wow.
And so in that sense, I was never going to tell them myself. So
Yeah.
it was great that she brought it up, but I think to people who are going through something like that, I think this whole idea of coming out, uh, it's about it's painful because it's about destroying something, right? And
Mm,
transformation happens when you can something dies and something is born again. So almost like um, the resurrection,
mm,
in the sense that you have to let go of this old suit in order to build a new one. Or at least to just not have a suit anymore. And the pain of kids who cannot be themselves around their loved ones is that they're carrying this old suit that doesn't fit them. So it is really important for parents to know this, that if a child either says it or doesn't know how to say it, or it's important to listen, because there's nothing more important, I think. And there's a lot of important things in life, but one of the many important things is freedom. Uh, because when you're free, you can explore things in a better way. You can understand life in a better way. And repression is it can lead to a lot of negative things. So yeah, I'd encourage to just really listen to your
mhm.
to 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 your children, and be open.
Juan Pablo Di Pace is our guest. Recently a couple were in and they started to talk about their child, and I went to what I presume was the issue. I said, "So is what you discovered that your son is gay?" And she said to me, the mother, "Gay?" She said, "That would be a walk in the park. That's a piece of cake." She said, "My child is looking to transition into a woman." We're
Mm.
living, as you say, in very, very interesting times, and certainly there is more understanding. Speaking of understanding, the American bishops had come out years ago with a beautiful pastoral letter called Always Our Children, which essentially said no matter where your child is coming from, not just in sexuality, but any issue, that the love should be unconditional. When, at that relatively early age, you shared your identity with your parents, did you feel an unconditional love back from them?
Yeah, yes, I did. I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not saying that it was immediately a done deal. It took time. But
Mm,
that's life, things take time. And maybe today you don't understand it, and then you study a little more, and then you think about it tomorrow, and then in a year is better. And then I think it's really about giving people chances to come to term with things, and that's something that I see a lot of parents that find it difficult is not as easy as, hey, it's, you know, like sometimes it takes time,
yeah.
and that's okay. It's okay for things to take time. So we have to be patient with our parents and our kids, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a very well put thing. The idea that it's not just about them giving us space and room, but we have to give them space and room too as well. We had a couple of times on the program a young actor named Jonathan Rumi, who's successfully playing Jesus on this popular series called The Chosen. And so we talk
Mm,
about what it must be like when you're
yeah.
raised as a Christian to play Jesus. Well, long before Jonathan Rumi did it, Juan
Yeah.
Pablo did. And I'm just wondering when Roma Downey and her people say this is a part for you to play, a great part, a historical part, but also a spiritual part, that character of Jesus in AD, the film. What was your response to the invitation to play Jesus? Was it intimidating at all? Is it hard to figure out how can I take Juan Pablo and transform him into this iconic figure?
I mean, it was intimidating at first. Um, I was overjoyed, and um, it was also very magical in the
Yeah.
sense that the sign, like I started seeing signs, like the moment before I get the phone call, I got this strange twister. I was on a hike and I just saw this twister and like these
Wow.
birds, and then I get this phone call. It was just like, what's going on? And but then of course you go there and you do the thing and you prepare and you realize that is a huge it's a huge task. And I just kept sort of I think I just kept trying to shut down the the voices to try to connect with him, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. Like, of course, there's so much around him and what he said and the Bible and movies, and I didn't want any of that in a way. I wanted to find what he meant to me personally. So there was a lot of being alone, a lot of I went to the desert by
Mm.
myself before filming, completely alone in the Sahara. Downey actually allowed me to do this because I said, "Hey, I really want to go to the desert by myself." And she's like, "Do you have a guide? Let's organize a guide." But yeah,
Right,
I
right,
think
right.
and I did, and it was the most magical thing just to be alone in the desert with the stars
Uh,
and this thing that I was about to do. And when I came back from the desert, it clicked. It made sense. But like I say, it was a beautiful discovery of who he was
mm-hmm.
to me, as if for the first time, because I was reading his words and I was saying his words, and yes, I it was also the most beautiful character I've ever played. So that leaves a
Yeah.
mark on me. When I came back to my life after shooting, I remember it was one of those things where you audition for other things, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was every single other role seemed terrible.
Uh,
Just every role seemed awful compared to Jesus, and it took me a while. It took me like a good, months to to be able to play someone else because it is magical. It was I felt it was a very transformative time in my life. Um,
what a
and I
part to play.
understood
Yeah.
what's
Especially
that?
for a person who's raised with the knowledge of Christ, which you were, but then to actually enter into that role. When you were in the desert, were you frightened at all? Alone?
No,
No.
I felt this security, this peace. After the fact, they told me, "Oh yeah, there's scorpions out there." I'm like,
Ah,
"Oh,
yeah.
I didn't care,"
Right, right, right. I promise we're going to wrap this up soon, and I want to again encourage listeners and watchers to be conscious of how to see the film and why to see the film. But a broader question, even than the film, although it includes what the theme would be. We're living, Juan Pablo, in a world, in America, certainly a very divided society, truly red and blue would divided 50%, 50%, but it's not just America. The whole world seems to be in conflict. And sometimes that can lead to, I think, the greatest illness in the world is discouragement, losing hope. When you look at the state of the world, and you're a person who wants to, as you say, leave a legacy of did I help to make the world a better place? Did I leave a rich legacy behind? Are you a person who, looking at the state of the world, is a person who still has hope?
if I have hope,
Yeah,
I do, I do also think that we've never been in the place that we are right now in history in terms of how things can go one way or the other way.
yeah.
We're very black and white right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think humans are not black and white. No human is
Right,
black and
right.
white. We are all like a mixture of grays
Yes.
and um, and it's a strange time because a lot of people are just like either this or
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And I don't accept that. I don't think that's a fair way of seeing humanity. So I look forward to a time soon when we can actually go look at each other and go, oh, actually, it's way more subtle. All these things are way more subtle. It's not like, you know, this or that.
Yes.
Um, and so I do have hope, but again, with this new technologies and things like it's either going to be amazing for humanity or we're going to screw it up.
Yes,
And
right,
you
right,
see
right.
that in every industry as well. It's like it's either or. So I think we are in a time of
Mm-hmm.
need to be conscious. We need to be conscious of not being so close-minded and
Right.
separated.
And to discern, let people discern the
Mhm.
nuances of life, which is beautiful. I like what you're saying about beware of absolutes. Even in my church, I find people will decide who's really Catholic based on are they conservative or liberal. And I remind them all the time that the character you played so beautifully, Jesus, clearly hung out with people from all walks of life and all dimensions of life. And an example I give them often is obviously as a priest, I believe in the sanctity of life, but I have spent meals sitting down with doctors who actually perform abortions. I just want to understand where they're coming from. And I think
Mhm.
we're all called on to say, all right, that person doesn't have my philosophy, my political ideology, but I want to at least find out why they think as they do and to try to better understand and find that middle ground that I think you're encouraging us to do. And in the final moment, we have literally moments of for my listeners, for my watchers, the film. Tell us where we can expect, if we haven't seen it in person already at the film festivals, to become aware of it. And is it for everyone? Is it for age-wise and background-wise? Is it a film that everyone should see?
It's a film for everyone. It's a film for everyone. And we will soon be able to say where
Mm-hmm.
around, like in a broader spectrum. But as of now, we are doing the festivals, and they
Right.
can watch New York this weekend on Saturday. And follow the account at Duino, Duino movie on Instagram.
That's beautiful. Juan Pablo Di Pace, thank you once again for being with us on Personally Speaking. Always a joy to talk with you. I love to watch your mind and your heart at work because you're so honest and so clear with us about your hopes and dreams. And we're so grateful to you once again for being with us, and much success on this film and all the creative arts that you will enter into in the days ahead, God willing. Thank you, Juan Pablo.
Thank you, Jim. You're awesome. I love talking to you.
Thanks for being with us on Personally Speaking. If you need to reach me for any reason, you can do that at personallyspeakingpodcast@gmail.com. You probably listened to this program on the Catholic channel, 129. And you can do more than that. You can watch it as well on YouTube if you like by searching under Personally Speaking with Monsignor Jim Lisante. We're also on Facebook at Personally Speaking with Monsignor Jim Lisante. We're on Instagram at Personally Speaking Podcast. Please share and let others know about Personally Speaking. I'm delighted to serve as host and executive producer, Personally Speaking. Our producer is Lisa Jandovitz. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be with you again next time on Personally Speaking.